supporting people who are listening to us to situate the values, oftentimes people, even though we act out of our values, which is what matters to you at your core, it's in misalignment with our behavior. So you talked, for example, about me being opinionated or assertive or whatever that is, because you had been trained differently. Okay, so in these two different trainings that had to come together harmoniously, what would people do in relation to trying to figure out the values underpinning these behaviors and how they can correct it, if you will, or reduce the incidences of it creating problems in their marriages?
That's a very important question. And if you want to achieve a long-lasting, successful marriages, it is one of the most important tasks that you must perform. Because the person that you are really living with is the younger version of your spouse.
The child within,
the child within your spouse, where your spouse grew up, the experiences they had, what has shaped and formed them. Because that shows up in how you live with them. And if you don't understand that, then there'll be constant fights and conflict. Because your spouse's choices, the way your spouse speaks, what your spouse likes and don't like, are all from the childhood experience, what made them who they are. And so until you understand that, you consistently misunderstand them. And that would then breed conflict. So embark on a course to truly, deeply understand your spouse. What experiences inform how they show up? Once you do, and if you can't, embark on an exercise to do that. Talk to their siblings, talk to their parents, talk to the areas they grew up, talk to classmates, watch them carefully. You begin to understand why your spouse acts the way they do. And once you do that, you will then be able to better appreciate them for who they are.
But I think just to add to that it must come from a place of curiosity, like a genuine sense of curiosity of, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person, then I really genuinely want to know all of them.
Yeah.
So in addition to just simply going to recite that, oh, I give you everything I have, all of me, I give to you, all of that, you need to genuinely, curiously want to know the fullness or the totality of the person that you're with in order to be able to manage the nuances and bring harmony into the relationship. Is there anything I'm leaving out? No, there is. I think we need to share even if we're not practicing all of it because we are not allowing ourselves to practice. I don't believe in, we don't make time to do things. You can always make time for things that matter to you. So in every relationship, there's a honeymoon stage, as people say, and then there's the I've gotten to know you stage, where I don't necessarily call it reality. See, this is where we divulge, but where you just take things for granted. So it's not necessarily taking things for granted. You just decide that after all, we're together. So suddenly the things that are supposed to grow your relationship no longer exist, and we need to avoid some of those things. So what are some of the conversations that we've had? So for example, having dates, and sometimes they don't have to be everyday dates, because especially in our case, when we see each other every day, all the time, well, not necessarily every day, because luckily we travel a lot, but almost every time we are in each other's space, because our conversations are work related, children related, so sometimes it becomes very transactional. So how do you move out from that transactional space into deeper conversations? And as I said earlier on, this is like normal conversation between Michael and I. It sounds odd, but it is really normal conversation.
You see how my house has been turned into a workshop.
It's a normal conversation where we're asking ourselves questions such as, so assuming we didn't have our 2 children, would we still be married to each other? These are good questions to ask yourself. And ask yourself at least once a year, have a reflection. Ask yourself, answer it for yourself. if you didn't have A, B, C, D, E, if we didn't have a joint account, would we still be married together? If we weren't overly invested, again, in the physical things, would we still be together? And then have honest conversations about it, because it's the only way you grow. I think there are too many relationships, sadly. We get to hear of relationships that have existed for 35 years, and then the couple decide that they are exiting, they're divorcing. But it means they divorced about 10, 15 years into their marriage. They stopped being curious. They gave up. And when you give up in your marriage for maybe, and for most people, they'll say be for the children's sake. The children's sake, no. It's serious because the children get your energy. We transfer energy to them. So it's also important that we're being mindful of the way we are relating, because it would affect them, it would affect their future, and the people that they also, the generations after them. So it's important that as much as possible, we're sincere and honest with ourselves by asking ourselves some of these difficult questions. What else have we discussed to do, for example? One of the things we never fail to do, though, so this is where I talk about headspace. We always set our goals, no matter what. At least once a year, and then once a year we review it. So twice a year, no matter what happens, we go through a process of reviewing our goals, setting our goals, understanding what has even changed with us. So there are periods where we all don't, things happen. So somebody may have gotten sick, then there's a change in diet, there's a change in, so even that aspect of your health and fitness changes, and it changes. It's a conversation that must be had, because you need to calibrate what that means, and then how it's going to affect the family. Suddenly, somebody decides that they are vegetarian, which is still coming, right? They're vegetarian, but the rest of us, we like meat. So then how do you marry the two? So you choose a healthy option. And then, but these things must be discussed. And then also there are cost implications to some of these lifestyle changes. So as and when you're discussing them, that's why it's important that you go across the wheel, because then you know that you're not ignoring anything and becoming a successful failure, but you're becoming more of a resilient, successful person. And most of these things take deliberate actions. It doesn't just happen. You share with a lot of people some of my awkwardness. So in case you're not married, this is for you. When we were dating, what was the question I asked you that surprised you the most? I think you should share it.
So the first time that I told this young woman I'm interested in her, the question she asked me was, Michael, do you know why you want to go out with me? Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a very powerful question, because that was the first time any lady was asking me that question. The typical schmooze around that time, oh, give me some time, let me think about it. But this woman asked me, do you know why you are interested in me? Do you know why you want to go out with me? And I think it set me thinking, because now I had to give her a reason to go out with me. I needed to appeal to both her rational and emotional senses. I needed to give her a higher reason, and not just, I like you, or this or that. Now, I think you've lived through to that billing all these years, always challenging at a very high level, always analyzing issues at a very strategic level, always being very deep and not facial, you know. So that's like you at your core.
But you haven't really liked that much.
Oh no, I like that. Yeah, sometimes it goes from no to two no. It goes from no to two no, but no, it's part of the package.
All right. So I think that basically it's all we are saying is that be a little deliberate, because the rest can come. The romancing bit can come. You form dates, you find out what your love languages are. If it's gifts giving, try and understand why it is, became, should be, and these things change as well. So as we change and grow in life, these things change as well, and we must learn to change with them. So don't stay static. Life evolves, and as and when life change with it. Try it, which is why it's important that you're curious to know yourself in addition to the person that you have said yes to, because what they do to trigger you, or what you do to trigger them, is as a result of your own internal chaos, or internal conflicts, or internal figurings out. And therefore, if you're trying to figure something out, a comment or 2 or 3 will trigger something in you, be it negative or positive. And now you say the person is doing something to you, but you have the power to decide how somebody triggers you and how you respond to a trigger. So essentially, we've been asked many times, how do you really make sure that your goals come to pass? When you achieve them, when you set them, you can achieve them. These are some of the simple little things that we do across the 10 domains of life to ensure that we are achieving it. And we've done this by looking at it through Michael Ohinie's lens. We hope that this has been helpful to you, that you have subscribed to the channel, and then you will come back for more. Thank you very much.